Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Interesting news involving the Canucks coming up in a matter of moments. We'll get to that before we get to Reid Wilkins. All of today's guests, including Reid, brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Seas return to the Nat next Tuesday when they take on Spokane for a 6-game set. The homestand includes Dog Day of Summer Night, a nooner, and visits from Blue Jays alum Pat Borders and Todd Stottlemyre. Check out the full schedule and get your tickets at canadiansbaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. When Rick Tocchet got hired by the Philadelphia Flyers, we wondered, all of Canuck Nation wondered, if he'd take any members of the Canuck organization with him. And Rick, today that's happened.
There's a report that Yogi Shevskovsky is going to Philadelphia. We haven't confirmed it yet, Donnie. That's Rick Tocchet's first deal. David Pagnotta, that's Tocchet's first deal out of Vancouver. There you go. And big time. And I knew that Tocchet loved Yogi. The Canucks love Yogi. The Sedin twins like him. The players like him. And what a brilliant move by Tocchet to get a guy, Donnie, that he respects a lot. And I don't think the Canucks wanted to lose this guy. There's no way. Everything I had heard is the Canucks wanted Yogi back. So, very interesting.
The tweet from David sounds like Yogi Shevskovsky, who was an assistant coach in Vancouver, will be joining Rick Tocchet in Philly as part of his coaching staff with the Flyers. More on that in a bit. Meanwhile, Game 1, Stanley Cup Final tonight. It's finally here.
Bring it on.
6 days of waiting for another NHL game. It's finally here. Game 1 tonight, Oilers and Panthers in Edmonton. Here to talk about that, host of the Reid Wilkins Show with Jay Milne on Edmonton Sports Talk, Reid Wilkins. Reid, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, a bit of a wait for the Stanley Cup Final. They should space it out so the Stanley Cup Final overlaps with the start of the next season. You'd have multiple competitions going on, like in soccer.
No
You got a regular season game on Tuesday, and then Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final on Thursday.
Reid, don't give Bettman any ideas because it might happen.
Fair enough. Yeah, team in Arizona, team on the moon. Why not?
Hey, listen, your last name is Wilkins, so it's the first time you've been on the show, so I have to ask you that. It's not the most common last name. Any relation to late former Canuck Barry Wilkins, who scored the first goal in Canucks NHL history?
No relation. Certainly not that I know of. So if there is one, it must be extremely distant. So I apologize that I don't have a story there. I do have a quick one if you want.
Yeah.
I would often, I still do it sometimes, introduce myself, spell my first name because people always get that wrong. And then when I say Wilkins, no relation to Dominique. So a few years ago, when I was still working on 630 Ched, I called the Atlanta Hawks and I was like, look, I know it's a weird request, but would Dominique Wilkins come on my show? And they were super nice. They were like, oh, yeah, he's a team ambassador. He does interviews all the time. He'll do anything. I got an email a couple of days later. They were like, call him at this time. He'll pre-tape for your show in the evening. I was like, this is amazing. So I called that number this time, and, it's like, hello? And I was like, hey, Dominique, it's Reid Wilkins calling for an interview. What do you mean? I was supposed to do an interview with you? I was like, yeah, okay, let's just do it. So he either forgot or wasn't prepared or just did interviews all the time, and we just did an interview. He wasn't overly engaged in it, but it was fine. So I did get to interview cousin Dominique.
Yeah, I got to say the resemblance is remarkable, Reid. Hey, Connor McDavid leaving Sunday's practice early, and what's the story yesterday? Trying on multiple pairs of skates during yesterday's workout. Is he overthinking? Is he playing mind games? What's going on with Connor McDavid?
I think he's fine. I think he's just making sure he's all ready to go. Anything he does is, as you guys know, over scrutinized. I don't see any issues with that. I mean, really, the Connor that might not play is Connor Brown, who's been kind of a playoff specialist with the Edmonton Oilers because his regular seasons have been a little underwhelming. So he got hurt in the Dallas series and missed some action. And then looked good to come back, and now the word is that he's been sick, and he's a game time decision tonight. But he's going to take the warm up, and Jeff Skinner stayed on the ice after the morning skate was kind of winding down. So I would expect him to play. But yeah, I think with McDavid, it's just making sure everything's fine. I don't think there's any issue there.
Reid, Connor has been asked about this a lot, but how much do you think he thinks about his legacy?
That's a good question. I don't think he thinks about it at all. I just think he wants to win the Stanley Cup this year. I don't think he's caught up in will I be remembered the same way as Gretzky or Lemieux or Lafleur or like whoever. Pick the guy, Crosby, Ovechkin. I just think he wants to win this year. I mean, I think they're all aware that, if you want to look at the generational players or even a lot of number one overall draft picks, even if they didn't come in with his hype, have won the Stanley Cup. But I don't know if he is sitting around thinking about that on a day-to-day basis. And I think especially the attitude the Oilers have this year, it's very businesslike. It's very much like, okay, we've been here before. We've been through, not just going to the Cup final, but we've been through playoff disappointments. I mean, Winnipeg swept us 5 years ago, and Chicago knocked us out in that qualifying round. Vegas knocked us out. I think they're very much bad things happen during the playoffs. There are going to be setbacks. We're not rattled by them. On to the next game and trust our ability and how we're playing and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if he's a huge legacy type of guy in the moment, but I think he's extremely focused on winning it in 2025.
Hey, Reid, I go back to the first two games of the playoffs, and I'm thinking, oh, boy, these guys are in trouble. Got blown out in L.A., first two games. And then you go on this incredible run. Skinner's been great of late. Pickard, when he came in, was great, won 6 straight. Goaltending should not be an issue in your eyes, Reid, in the Stanley Cup final?
Well, look, I think Bobrovsky's the better goaltender, and the way I will put that is his ceiling is higher than Stuart Skinner's.
Right.
And I think last year in the Cup final, Bobrovsky probably stole Game 1. He made a lot of good saves in that game, and then in the end, Florida was one win better. I think Skinner's. Well, I know Skinner's playing better than he has at any other point this season. I mean, he didn't start well. He was kind of good in the middle when the Oilers had a run of going. I think it was 22-6-3 or something like that, like a pretty good run. And then, he dropped off and he was injured late in the season. So I think that with the Oilers, Skinner's locked in. He's playing very well, and they're defending extremely hard. Like, they're blocking a lot of shots. They're getting forwards back to disrupt plays and take away shooting lanes and not giving up a lot of odd man rushes. So I think if the Oilers limit the grade A chances against, and then Skinner maybe makes a good save or 2 or 3 along the way, then I think he can stand in there against Bobrovsky. Skinner's been interesting to follow because he does have some downs, but if you look at the last 2 years, he wasn't supposed to be able to beat Sheloffs, and I know he got some help from Pickard in that series, but they did. He wasn't supposed to beat Ottinger last year. He wasn't supposed to beat Ottinger this year. He wasn't supposed to. Who else from last year? Whoever LA had, and he
wasn't supposed to beat Seelovs, Reid.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So somehow he keeps being on the team that advances. Yes, Pickard has helped them along the way, but I was talking about Bobrovsky's high end is higher than Skinner's. Like Skinner's high end is higher than Pickard's, so that's why the Oilers, prefer to go to Skinner. I think if they can.
I'm a huge Zach Hyman fan. Boy, that was a tough blow. And he talked about his wrist this morning, dislocated. He had the surgery right away when he first got hurt. That's a big blow, Reid, to the Oilers, any way you slice it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Great all-around player, hard worker. I mean, he's above average or great at everything, right? Yep. Like, there's nothing he's really average at and certainly nothing he's poor at. And his hitting has been off the charts in the postseason. And you probably saw that soundbite from the Dallas series where he told Thomas Harley, get used to it. We're coming all series. So that is a loss up front because he can do everything. He can finish plays. He can play with McDavid. If you want to put him on a line with Henrique or somebody else, he's fine there as well. But I guess I know it's a different position, guys, but I do think in some ways it's offset by the return of Matthias Ekholm, who came back for Game 5 against Dallas, who's a big defenseman, who's a cycle stopper, who's a physical player, who can move the puck, who can get the slap shot through from the blue line. So I realize it's a different position. So you might lose something in the forecheck with Zach Hyman, But I think you gain something in getting the puck out of your own end with Matthias Ekholm and giving those Oilers forwards a chance to go to work.
All sorts of Vancouver connections in this series, Reid. When it comes to the Oilers lineup, there's Troy Stecher, there's Vasily Podkolzin, and then there's Evander Kane, who's from East Vancouver. Did you expect him to be, and he's got 11 points in 15 games, did you expect him to be this effective after missing the entire regular season?
No. Quite frankly, I had no expectations for Evander Kane, and that doesn't mean I had low expectations. I just was at the point, I have no idea how this guy's going to play. I have no idea how engaged he's going to be. I mean, we went through all this stuff where it's like, okay, he's not playing, and then he's probably going to come back. Oh, and now there's been another procedure, and there was even some thought, how much do the Oilers even know what's going on? And then he came back, and he's been great. I mean, in some ways, he might be the Oilers' most consistent forward throughout the postseason. I know he doesn't have the most points or make the most flashy plays, but he's been physical. He's been intimidating. He's been skating well, and he's been good defensively. I mean, very good along the boards, getting the puck out when there's a battle just inside the Oilers' blue line. He's been an incredible addition. I know that's going to eventually, or maybe you guys are already talking about, bring up the whole salary cap, hiding guys, whatever, LTIR. The Oilers aren't the first team to do it, but he's been very, very good.
Did the Canucks make a mistake trading away Podkolzin?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to say that. I like Podkolzin on a third or fourth line.
Yeah.
I really do. I didn't like him as much, and he might still wind up with Draisaitl at some points. I don't necessarily like him as much there because I don't think his puck skills are great. But he has shown sometimes he can get a good shot away. But I mean, along the lines of Kane, he's good along the boards. He's a dogged forechecker. He's a bigger guy who can get in the way. He's been killing penalties. I like him in the role when he's on a third or fourth line. And a good line for the Oilers this season, in this postseason, when they've been together, which hasn't been all the time, but they've scored some big goals along the way, is Janmark between Podkolzin and Arvidsson. That's been a pretty good fourth line when they have been together for Edmonton.
But you know the story here in Vancouver, Reid, as we wrap things up. If there's a visual of Podkolzin lifting the Stanley Cup, there might be another riot here in Vancouver. Just so you know.
I hope not, but I know what that is like, because when the Oilers went through their lean, well, even this year with Broberg and Holloway, right? It's the fan bases always look at the guys who got away. But it hasn't been a rocket ship ride for Podkolzin this season. I mean, there have been some games where it's like, what is this guy's role really? And again, I don't think the puck skills are great, but I think he's sort of found a spot with this Oilers team for sure.
First time we've had you on, Reid, and it's been great. We'll get you back. Thanks so much for this.
Yeah, happy to do it. Have a good day.